Hi there. This video is going to show you how to do translations in the geometry sticky of Classpad.net. There's 3 different ways, and so therefore you have quite a few options with your students. I'm going to open a geometry sticky, click anywhere, choose geometry. I am going to turn on the grids because usually when we're dealing with translations we're looking at direction and distance, and we usually introduce that with coordinates. So let me turn those on. So now I have my grids on. I'm going to use my draw tool and draw a shape here. And let's make it a simple shape. So I have a triangle and I want to translate it. So I'm going to select the points of my object and I'm going to go to construct under my menu options, and you'll notice here's all my transformations, and what do I want to do with those selected items? I want to translate, and this time I'm using coordinates. So when I click that, it asks me for the translation rule. So let's just choose 4 and -2 for the y value and hit execute. So what you'll see now is my translated object image. And I'm going to change the color of these so that they stand out different from my original image. So I'm just going to go to properties, change that to red. So you'll notice my image is now A prime, B prime, C prime, which is a nice feature. And here's my translation rule, and I'm going to move it so that it's not blocking my image. So we moved this original image, pre-image, to where the red one is by sliding 4 to the right and going down 2. How does that change the coordinates? So this is really nice because you're using the rules, and so you could measure the coordinates of any corresponding points. So we'll just choose A here and compare it then to the rule. So there's A, and let's also now measure the coordinates of its corresponding point in the image. And so we could now help students see that connection, that it was at -6.08. It is now at -2.08. That's adding the translation rule of x 4. And same thing here. The y coordinate went down to 2, so that is adding in that -2. So this translation rule tells me the direction and what distance to move my original image. So that's one way to do translation. Let's scroll down and get another geometry sticky here. And this time, I'm not going to put the grid on. I probably could, but I'm not. And we'll just draw a shape. Let's try to make this one a slightly different shape. Oh, it's not different because I didn't do it very well, so we'll leave it with a triangle. So here's my image, and this time I'm going to use a vector. So I'm going to go to my straight edge tool, choose the vector, and let's make a vector that is going that way currently. So what this is telling me is I'm going to use this vector to translate my original image, my pre-image. And it's going to go in this direction of the vector, where the arrow is, and that distance. So let's do that again. So similar to the first one, we're going to select the object that we'd like to translate, go to the construct menu, and choose this time translation by vector. And so what happens is, you'll see in just a minute, taking a little bit of time here. Okay, so I'm going to select the image, go to construct, and choose translation by vector, and it is asking me to select a vector, so I'm going to select this vector here, and you'll see now that I have a new image. Let's change the color again just so it stands out. So this is the translated image, so pre-image, translated image, and it's moved in the same direction and in the same distance as the vector, and I can test that by selecting the vector and moving it and showing that the corresponding points all have that vector distance in that same direction. And the nice thing about using a vector to show a translation is I can now use the vector. I can change the length of the vector, I can change the direction of the vector, and it is moving my shape according to this. And I could measure the distance and show that the distance between corresponding points is the distance of this vector. I could label the coordinates and do the same thing. So this is another way to do translation. Let's do one more. So we're going to scroll down, open another geometry sticky, and let's draw a shape. I think it's going to be a triangle again. I've got to get that image in there. So now what I'm going to do, instead of a vector or specific rules, I'm going to select my pre-image. I'm going to go to the construct menu, and I'm going to choose coordinates again, but this time I'm going to use variables instead of specific numbers. So let's just use H to represent horizontal, and let's use V to represent vertical. So watch what happens when I do that. Because I didn't use specific numbers, I am representing the horizontal move and the vertical move by sliders. And so if I change that horizontal, let's make it be 6, it's going to move. So this is obviously my pre-image. Let's change, my image. Let's change that to a different color. Let's make it green this time. And then if I change my vertical, let's go down some, and I can also change. So let's go down 6. So now I can control the movement, and I still want to maybe do and it's telling me currently what I've done. So here's my translation rule currently, and here we can do the same thing. We can measure the coordinate points of at least one corresponding pair, and compare these coordinates to the current translation rule, but then you can change it. So you can really explore. So what happens if, for example, both of these are 0? What is my image look like? It's hard to get to 0, isn't it? So there's 0. So that means I didn't move anywhere, right? So if one of them is 0, it means I'm on the same, so notice our coordinate points are on the same y value, right? Same y. And so you can really explore when you're using sliders. So this is yet another way to do translation. So you have 3 different ways. So have fun exploring and really think about what it is you're trying to help students understand, and decide whether sliders or specific translation rules and numbers or vectors are more appropriate for what you're trying to do.